My name is Patricia. I'm 27 years old, and to be honest, I don't even know where to begin this story. I've deleted this recording 3 times already because, even now, I can't believe I'm about to admit what I'm going to say. I'm not some attention-seeking girl. I'm just a woman who's been through too much, and after what happened, I'm not the same person anymore. I've had my heart broken 3 times. Not the kind of heartbreak where you cry for a night and move on. I'm talking about the kind that makes you question your worth, where you stare at your phone for hours, hoping the person who promised to love you forever will text you back. The last one broke something in me. He cheated, lied, ghosted me for 2 months, then came back engaged, as if I never mattered. After that, I told myself I was done. No more men, no more chances. If I ever needed to talk to someone, I'd talk to my dad. He's always been there, always kind, always steady. My safe place, the only man who's never let me down. My dad lost the love of his life. My mom passed away from cancer 8 months ago, and since then, he hasn't been the same. I watched the strongest man I know crumble in the quietest way. I became his rock, and he became mine. We cooked together, cleaned together, sat in silence together. The kind of silence only 2 broken people can understand. Somewhere in that silence, something started to shift. I didn't notice it at first, but it was in the way I lingered too long when he hugged me, the way I sought his approval, the way I smiled when he called me beautiful, even when I hadn't showered or brushed my hair in days. I started to crave him, not just as a father, but as a man. It scared me, but I pushed those thoughts away because that's what you do, right? You bury what you're not supposed to feel. You keep smiling, pretending everything's fine. But one night, we were watching a movie my mom loved, and I started crying. I leaned into him, and he held me tighter than he ever had. When I looked up at him, his eyes were already on me. Not like I was his daughter, but like I was a woman. That was the beginning. That's when I knew something had already changed between us, and I didn't want to stop it. When my mom died, the house changed. I'm not even talking about the furniture or the decor. I mean the warmth, the smell, the laughter. It all vanished. She died on a quiet Tuesday morning in the hospital. I still remember exactly how my dad whispered, "It's okay, my love, you can let go." I watched my mom, my best friend, take her last breath in his arms. That image is burned into me. It still is. After the funeral, people came and went. Church ladies brought food we didn't eat. Family members patted our backs with hollow words like, "Stay strong," or "She's in a better place." But when the last car left and the house went quiet again, that's when the real grief began. I moved back in with Dad a few days later. I didn't even think twice about it. He looked so lost, like a man who didn't know how to function without her. I couldn't leave him like that. Those first weeks were the hardest. He barely spoke. Most days, he just sat by the window, staring at the street like he was waiting for someone who'd never come. He stopped shaving, stopped cooking, stopped turning on the lights unless I reminded him. I tried to hold it together. I made breakfast, even when neither of us felt like eating. I cleaned the kitchen, sorted the mail, left the TV on so the silence wouldn't swallow us. But the nights were the worst. I could hear him crying through the wall. Not loud, not like the sobs you see in movies. No, it was different, quiet, broken, the kind of crying a man does when he's trying to hold it all in but can't anymore. I'd lie in my room, clutching my pillow, feeling every tear he refused to shed during the day. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I got out of bed and walked barefoot down the hall. I didn't knock. I just opened the door and went in. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, shirtless, holding a picture of Mom in his hands. His back was slumped, his eyes red, and for the first time since her death, he looked old, tired, human. I didn't say a word. I just walked over and wrapped my arms around him from behind. He froze for a moment, then broke. He turned and pulled me into his lap, like he did when I was little. I hadn't sat like that in years, but it felt natural, familiar. He sobbed into my shoulder, and I held his head against my neck, letting him fall apart. Neither of us said anything for a long time. Finally, I whispered, "I miss her too, Dad." He nodded, his voice trembling. She was everything to me. I looked at him, and in the way he looked back, there was something deeper. Not desire, not lust, just a raw, unfiltered connection. That night, I didn't go back to my room. I stayed in his bed, curled up against him. We didn't do anything, but I rested my head on his chest, and he held me like he held Mom, safe. Like he was afraid I'd disappear too. From that night on, things changed. Not dramatically, but subtly. I started spending more time in his room. We'd talk until 2 in the morning about everything. Childhood memories, how he met Mom, the time she cooked for him and nearly burned the chicken, the night he proposed to her in the rain. He smiled through his tears as he told those stories, and I laughed even while crying. But every story he shared reminded me how deep love could be, and I started wondering if I'd ever have something like that, or if I was just chasing heartbreak, trying to fill a void no man could fill. I remember one evening on the porch. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue across his face. He looked peaceful, beautiful, more than I'd ever noticed before. I caught myself staring, and it scared me. I quickly looked away, pretending to adjust my blanket, but deep down, I knew something in me had already shifted, and I didn't know how to stop IT. IT happened on a quiet Saturday night. The house was silent, rain tapping against the windows. Always rain when something big happens, isn't it? I'd just gotten out of the shower, wrapped in one of those oversized towels that barely stayed up. I didn't expect him to be downstairs, but there he was, sitting on the couch, reading something on his phone. The TV was on low, the room dark except for the soft glow of the lamp beside him. His eyes lifted the moment I walked in, and he looked at me, not just a glance, but a look that held. Our eyes locked, and in that silence, everything that had been building between us over those weeks hung heavy, unspoken. He didn't say anything. Neither did I. I walked past him, the air shifting as his gaze followed me. My heart pulsed in places I shouldn't have noticed. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and then, as if something pulled me, I turned back and walked toward him. Still silent, he set his phone down slowly. His eyes stayed on mine, almost like he was asking for permission without saying a word. I gave a faint nod. He opened his arms, slowly, uncertainly, and I stepped into them. At first, it was just a hug, familiar, safe. His hand rested at the small of my back, my cheek pressed against his. His heartbeat was fast. Mine was faster. Then he pulled back just enough to look at my face. His eyes searched mine. "You're so beautiful," he whispered, barely audible, almost afraid to say it. I should have said something. I should have stopped it. But I didn't, because when his lips met mine, I kissed him back like neither of us wanted to admit it, but neither of us wanted it to stop. That was the night. The night we. And if you're still listening, what happened next will stay with me for the rest of my life. It was a quiet Saturday night, rain pattering against the windows, the smell of something warm lingering from dinner. I came downstairs in one of those soft, oversized t-shirts, big enough to swallow me. I hadn't planned to wear it in front of him, but I didn't turn back either. I told myself it was harmless. He was on the couch, phone in hand, half watching a movie Mom loved. The moment I walked into the room, he looked up, and I'll never forget the way he stared. Not intentional, not wrong yet, but not quite right either. I didn't say anything. I just went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water I didn't need. But even from the sink, I could feel the air had changed between us. He didn't speak. I didn't ask why. When I came back, I didn't go upstairs. I sat beside him. The silence between us wasn't heavy. It was like we both knew something was coming but didn't want to break it. Then his hand rested on my leg, gently. No force, no rush, just a simple comfort, maybe familiarity. But in that quiet moment, it was more than that. He looked at me, his voice low. "Do you want me to stop?" I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in my life, I didn't just see my dad. I saw a man who had loved and lost, a man I knew better than anyone on earth. I shook my head. That was the moment the line vanished without warning. We leaned into each other at the same time. No words, no plan, just two people giving in to something that had been building silently for weeks. At first, it was slow, tentative, long enough to pull back, short enough to think twice. But once it started, it was like everything. The grief, the loneliness, the desperate need to be close to someone who truly knew your heart, came rushing in at once. We didn't say anything, not during, not right after. We sat side by side, heads resting against each other, breathing the same air. That night, I stayed there, not out of impulse, but because it was the only place in the world where I didn't feel broken. I know what you're thinking. Yes, we crossed a line, not just emotionally, but physically, in the quietest, most confusing way possible. It wasn't wild or reckless. It was heavy, honest, like two people trying to make sense of a world that didn't anymore. I can still hear his voice from that night. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I said it back, but we didn't let go. That's when I knew it wasn't a mistake, not something we could pretend never happened. It was a shift, a moment that changed everything. I woke up in his bed. For a split second, I forgot where I was, forgot what had happened. But then I turned, and he was still there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling like he hadn't slept at all. Neither of us said anything. We lay there in silence, wrapped in the same sheets but miles apart in our thoughts. I could feel the tension in the air, not anger, not shame, just waiting, like we were both holding our breath, trying to process something that couldn't be undone. He spoke first. "You hungry?" I nodded slightly. We got dressed separately, quietly. We met in the kitchen like it was any other morning, but nothing was the same. He poured coffee, I toasted bread, and we moved around each other like strangers, careful not to look too long. At one point, our hands brushed as I passed him the butter. We both looked away. It hurt more than I thought it would. He stirred his mug over and over, even after the sugar had dissolved. I knew he was searching for words. "So was I." Finally, I said, "We don't have to talk about it now." He nodded slowly.